Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating and honestly, highly technical science of rescuing properties from water disasters. If you live around the Sacramento area, well, you already know water's just a part of life here. But when that water gets inside your home, it is an absolute structural nightmare. So let's take a look at exactly how the pros handle it.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by breaking down West Sacramento's unique water risks, then explore the science of drying. After that, we'll walk through the three critical phases: emergency extraction, structural drying, and complete restoration. And finally, we'll wrap up with navigating insurance claims. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. West Sacramento Water Risks, Rivers, Clay, and Corroding Pipes.
Okay, I want you to picture this. It's 3 a.m. You'll wake up to the sound of rushing water. You step out of bed and bam, your feet hit a soaked, freezing carpet. A pipe just burst in your hallway. Immediate panic sets in, right? Because water doesn't care about standard business hours, and the clock is instantly ticking. What you do in those next few crucial moments will literally dictate whether your home survives intact or if you're looking at a massive, incredibly expensive structural teardown.
Now, you might be wondering, how fast do I actually have to act? Well, the absolute magic number in the restoration industry is a 45-minute response window. Why exactly 45 minutes? Because water damage isn't static, it grows exponentially. Within just the first 3 hours, water acts like a giant, incredibly thirsty sponge. It's actively wicking up into your drywall, saturating your baseboards, and seeping way deep down into your subflooring. Literally, every single minute you wait to address standing water means more of your home's structural integrity is actively being compromised.
And look, the threats out here in Yolo County, they are incredibly hyperlocal and honestly, relentless. In the winter, we've got atmospheric rivers and the deep water ship channel threatening seasonal flooding, followed right up by spring snowmelt stressing out our Washington and Broderick levees. Underground, our region's expansive clay soil just absorbs all this water, swelling up and creating massive hydrostatic pressure. Think of hydrostatic pressure as the literal crushing weight of water pushing relentlessly against your foundation walls. Throw in some aging, corroding 1960s galvanized pipes in the historic neighborhoods, or 100-degree summer heat melting your AC condensate drains up in the attic, and yeah, these threats are coming at you from the inside and the outside.
Moving on to Section 2, the science of drying beyond the shop vacuum.
So it turns out, not all water is created equal. The industry actually relies on strict ANSI-approved standards, which is essentially the nationally recognized rulebook for safety, and they categorize water threats into 3 distinct levels. Category 1 is a clean supply line break. It's low hazard, and standard emergency extraction does the trick. But Category 2? That introduces contamination, like a washing machine overflow, meaning you absolutely need specific antimicrobial treatments to make the space safe. And then there's Category 3. That is your Sacramento River floodwater or a straight-up sewage backup. It is highly toxic, packed with dangerous pathogens, and triggers aggressive hazmat protocols just to enter the room safely. No way you're cleaning that up with some paper towels.
And here's the really fascinating part. Professionals never just guess if a room is dry. They use psychrometrics. This is the precise science of measuring heat and humidity to create a vapor pressure gradient. In everyday terms, technicians are manipulating the room's atmosphere so that the dry air acts like a giant magnet, actively sucking the trapped moisture right out of your saturated walls and floors. It is literally applied physics working overtime to save your living room.
All right, Section 3, Phase 1, Emergency Extraction, Stopping the Flood. Now, there is a very strictly ordered 3-phase methodology to all this madness. You absolutely cannot just slap a fresh coat of paint over a wet wall and call it a day. The process has to follow exactly: emergency extraction, then structural drying, and finally, complete restoration and verification. This specific sequence replaces the sheer chaos of a disaster with predictable, highly scientific steps.
Phase 1. It requires absolute heavy firepower. We are talking about truck-mounted pumps capable of ripping 200 gallons of water out of a home every single minute. To put that into perspective, that's like emptying 4 full bathtubs in 60 seconds. It is an absolute game changer compared to a consumer wet vac you'd pick up from the hardware store, and it stops that nasty saturation process dead in its tracks.
This initial emergency extraction usually takes about 4 to 8 hours, though it totally depends on the volume of water inside the home. The primary goal here is pure triage. pull up the soaked carpet padding, get the standing water completely out, and immediately halt the moisture from climbing any higher into your delicate drywall and insulation.
Next up, Section 4. Phase 2, Structural Drying, the psychrometric battle.
So the physical properties of your home actually dictate the entire timeline here. Standard materials, like your normal drywall and synthetic carpet, usually take about 3 to 5 days to dry. But what the industry calls Class 4 materials, which are those dense, specialized items like beautiful hardwood flooring or heavy lath and plaster, they hold on to moisture tenaciously. Those denser materials can take up to 10 full days of continuous, calculated airflow and intense dehumidification before they safely return to normal.
To win this psychrometric battle, technicians deploy a massive arsenal. Industrial air movers rapidly whip moisture right into the air while commercial dehumidifiers pull that moisture completely out of the atmosphere. But, the real magic is in the monitoring. They use sophisticated thermal imaging cameras to spot cold pockets where invisible water is stubbornly hiding behind your walls and calibrated moisture meters to probe deep down into the wood. Getting this constant stream of data allows them to tweak and adjust their equipment every 24 hours, guaranteeing that hidden mold never gets a single chance to grow.
Which brings us to Section 5, Phase 3, Complete Restoration, verifying the dry standard.
Listen, rushing the reconstruction process is a complete recipe for disaster. If a general contractor tries to hang new drywall or paint over an area before it's 100% dry, they're just trapping hidden moisture. And doing that, it virtually guarantees a massive, wildly expensive mold remediation bill a few months down the line. Reconstruction only happens when comprehensive moisture mapping definitively proves the underlying structure has met those strict industry dry standards we talked about earlier.
Let's map out the entire life cycle of a disaster. It goes from hour 0, when that pipe bursts at 3 a.m., to the ultra-critical minute 45, when the emergency extraction team arrives on the scene. Hours 4 through 8 are spent ruthlessly extracting all that standing water. Then, days 1 through 5 are entirely dedicated to the invisible psychrometric structural drying. Only after day 6 do we finally move to the safe reconstruction of the property. It's a highly structured, methodical journey from total chaos right back to comfort.
Finally, Section 6, Navigating Insurance Claims, the Power of Documentation.
So how does all this intense science actually impact your wallet? Well, major insurance companies don't just take your word for it when you ask for a massive payout. They demand meticulous, court-admissible evidence. If you try to do this cleanup yourself and you fail to provide time-stamped moisture logs, a daily photographic progression of the drying, and absolute proof that you used approved methodologies, you are going to face agonizing, frustrating delays in getting your claim approved. As industry experts point out, professional estimators generate moisture meter logs with timestamps that provide court-admissible data to justify every single line item on your claim. The ultimate takeaway here? Bulletproof documentation is your absolute best friend. It transforms a messy, highly emotional disaster into a clear, indisputable dataset that essentially forces the insurance adjuster to write your check faster. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. When the next atmospheric river hits the Sacramento Valley, is your property truly prepared for the hydrostatic pressure? Hopefully, this explainer has empowered you to look way beyond the surface water and really understand the deep science required to save a home. Because having a plan makes all the difference between a minor, temporary hiccup and a total structural loss. Thanks for joining us. Stay prepared out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.